I told you that marijuana or hemp was at one point the most produced crop in America, would you believe me? During World War II, the government even had a slogan, "Hemp for Victory," because they wanted the farmers to produce it for the fiber from the plant produced stronger ropes. In the 1940s, Henry Ford even produced a car made from 70% hemp fiber that could run on hemp ethanol. Why use up the forests, which were centuries in the making, and the mines, which required ages to lay down, if we can get the equivalent of forests and mineral products in the annual growth of hemp fields, said Henry Ford. Yet today, marijuana is one of the most demonized plants on the planet. So what happened over the past 100 years that has made this plant so bad? Cannabis is one of the most useful plants on this planet, yet remains illegal. How can you make something that grows naturally illegal? A prohibition law strikes a blow upon the very principles which our government was founded, said Abraham Lincoln in 1840. Hemp, the non-psychoactive cousin of marijuana, was one of the largest agricultural crops in the world up until 1883, and for thousands of years before, cannabis hemp was the largest produced crop on the earth. It had thousands of uses and products. The majority of fabric, lighting, oil, and medicines came from hemp. One of the first marijuana laws in the United States was a law ordering farmers to produce hemp in Jamestown in 1619, from the Union documentary on YouTube. But in the 1920s, when yellow journalism started popping up, creating reefer madness, saying that blacks and Mexicans were frenzied beasts who would smoke marijuana and play devil's music, these journalists, whose readers were mainly white, would say some of the offenses the minorities would perform would be looking at a white woman twice, stepping on a white man's shadow, or laughing at a white man, etc. This led to the first law criminalizing the production of marijuana. In the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, requiring you to purchase a tax stamp from the government in order to be able to produce hemp, but the only problem was they weren't giving them out to anyone. This tax act is still in effect today. In 1938, Popular Mechanics magazine had produced an article titled, "New Billion-Dollar Crop." They said things like, hemp would be able to produce over 5,000 textile products from its fiber, and 25,000 products from its cellulose, all the way from dynamite to cellophane, and its superior quality for paper and the amount of time it takes to grow fields of hemp in a season compared to forests that take years. This would put it in direct competition with many capitalistic markets, and so with the help of yellow journalism, hemp was thrown in with marijuana as being just as evil and made illegal with the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. But then, during World War II, the government said hemp was good again, and produced the slogan, "Hemp for Victory." After World War II, when the marijuana law came back into question, Congress realized they made it illegal for all the wrong reasons. It didn't make people violent, it made them pacifists and free thinkers. So they made it illegal again for the complete opposite reason they did in the first place. What are some of the biggest killers in the United States today? Cigarettes come in at number one substance with close to 500,000 deaths per year. About 1,300 deaths a day. This is about 1/5 of the United States deaths annually. Alcohol kills about 88,000 people annually, and even aspirin comes in at 3,000 deaths annually. So how many deaths come solely from marijuana? 0 deaths have been contributed to cannabis consumption directly ever in history. So why does the government think marijuana needs to be illegal? For my own safety, so I don't abuse marijuana? With that thinking, we should make Burger King and McDonald's illegal, since I can abuse cheeseburgers and get obese and die of a heart attack. So why is marijuana illegal if it's not dangerous? The government's job isn't to be your big brother watching out for your safety, or else don't you think cigarettes and alcohol would be illegal? That kind of defeats the purpose of living in a free country. So what's this drug war really about when we produce and export poisonous cigarettes to other countries, but a plant that has caused no deaths remains illegal? The short answer is money. Why keep marijuana legal? With the growth of the privatized prison system, the prison system has become a for-profit system, and their biggest source of free labor comes from the war on drugs. Feeding the prison systems with an endless amount of free labor is convicted on non-violent drug crimes, which is pretty much modern-day slavery. Driven by the drug war, the U.S. prison population is 6 to 10 times as high as most Western European nations. Last year, more than 600,000 people were arrested in this country for marijuana-related offenses alone. Marijuana prohibition causes more problems than it solves and ruins thousands more lives than it supposedly tries to save, according to NORML, the National Organization for Marijuana Laws. Secondly, pharmaceutical companies stand to lose tons of money. How can you possibly compete with a drug that can be grown in your backyard? They've actually even created a synthetic drug called Marinol, chemically identical to THC, that the pharmaceutical companies sell. Funny for a drug that is Schedule 1 in our federal government, meaning it has no medicinal value. Another example of the hypocrisy of our government. Cocaine is Schedule 2 drug, meaning it has some potential medicinal value. The illegality of marijuana has caused the black market to thrive, and a drug war that has dragged on for the past 50 years now since the Nixon administration to no effect, wasting countless taxpayer dollars. With it being illegal, the distribution of it is unregulated, meaning it's up to the dealers what age is okay to sell to. But with legal marijuana, you have to be age verified just to set foot into a dispensary. Today, the laws for marijuana are changing faster than they have ever before. Every year, it seems, a new state or country is legalizing marijuana. In 1996, California became the first state to legalize medicinal marijuana for patients with debilitating health conditions, which led to a slew of other states legalizing it, only medicinally up until 2012 when Colorado and Washington State became the first states to fully legalize the plant for adults 21 years and older. Since then, 11 states have fully legalized marijuana, and 31 separate states have some form of medicinal marijuana program, including Iowa, which has some of the strictest sanctions on medicinal marijuana in the country, limiting the percent that's allowed in products, or even limiting the products that are available themselves. So far, 4 countries have fully legalized the recreational use of cannabis: Canada, Uruguay, Georgia, and South Africa, with Uruguay being the first country in the world to do so in 2013. So what are the benefits and negatives of marijuana? Medicinally, the list of benefits can seem almost endless, from preventing seizures to stopping a common headache or hangover. The most common use for medical marijuana in the United States is for pain control. While marijuana isn't strong enough for severe pain, for example, post-surgical pain or a broken bone, it is quite effective for chronic pain that plagues millions of Americans, especially as they age. Part of its allure is that it's clearly safer than opiates. It is impossible to overdose on and far less addictive, and it can take place of NSAIDs such as Advil or Aleve if people can't take them due to the problems with their kidneys or ulcers. In particular, marijuana appears to ease the pain of multiple sclerosis and nerve pain in general. This is an area where few other options exist, and those that do, such as Neurontin, Lyrica, or opiates, are highly sedating. Patients claim that marijuana allows them to resume their previous activities without feeling completely out of it and disengaged. Along these lines, marijuana is said to be a fantastic muscle relaxant, and people swear by its ability to lessen tremors and Parkinson's disease. I've also heard of its use quite successfully for fibromyalgia, endometriosis, and interstitial cystitis, and most other conditions where the final common pathway is chronic pain. Marijuana is also used to manage nausea and weight loss, and can be used to treat glaucoma, a highly promising area of research for its use for PTSD in veterans who are returning from combat zones. Many veterans and their therapists report drastic improvement and clamor for more studies, and for a loosening of governmental restrictions on its study. Medical marijuana is also reported to help patients suffering from pain and wasting syndrome associated with HIV, as well as irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's disease, according to Dr. Lester Greenspoon from the Harvard Medical Journal. With all these medical benefits, what could possibly be the downsides for it? Well, prolonged use to it beginning in adolescence can affect brain development and lead to lower IQs. For example, a study from New Zealand conducted in part by researchers at Duke University showed that people who started smoking marijuana heavily in their teens and had an ongoing marijuana use disorder lost an average of 8 IQ points between ages 13 and 38. The lost mental abilities didn't fully return in those who quit marijuana as adults. Those who started smoking marijuana as adults didn't show noticeable IQ declines. It can also lead to psychosis or schizophrenia in people who were already predisposed to those mental disorders. Some physical negative effects can be increased heart rate, or breathing problems since marijuana smoke irritates the lungs, but this can be avoided through edibles. So no matter what your view on marijuana was before listening, I hope now you know the real reasons it became illegal in the first place and the benefits and negatives so you can make a more informed decision in the future if the legality of it comes up for vote. Marijuana is just a plant that has been stereotyped over the past 100 years, when in reality it has been used over the past thousands of years.